It's another edition of Harvey's Hot Takes with Bryan Hayes from TSN Radio. Bryan, great to see you. And last week on the show, you picked Rory McIlroy to win the Masters, and lo and behold, he did just that. So congratulations seem to be in order. But, Bryan, I want to show you this tweet from our mutual friend Jeff O'Neill. Over the weekend, it says, Hayes quit on Rory. I never did. Bryan, how do you respond?
There's a part of me that doesn't even want to respond. I don't even want to acknowledge the stupidity of Jeff O'Neill's Twitter account because it's such a fraudulent tweet. And I will admit there were times where it was dicey, and there were times where I was fielding calls from Jeff O'Neill saying he's done, he'll never win, I can't do it anymore, I'm not watching this guy. It was a roller coaster, and O and I'm sure were just like every other person in North America, maybe around the world, that was watching the Masters thinking, what is McIlroy doing on so many different occasions? And I think that's what made this possibly the most unique victory I can think of, maybe in sports history, but certainly in golf history, where he's triumphant. He wins. McIlroy did it. He finally got his green jacket. He finally gets his career Grand Slam. Yet, I think I'm going to associate this victory with all of the failures that led up to it, which is, again, very unique to McIlroy and maybe somewhat unfair. But I think it speaks to the journey that he was on. 11 years in between major wins, 14 years since he threw away the Masters back in 2011 when he had a 4-shot lead making the turn. And as many great shots as he made on Sunday alone. You know, forget what he did on Thursday and Friday and Saturday. On Sunday alone, getting up and down for birdie on 3. That tee shot on 4, making birdie on 4. That shot out of the trees on 7. The 7-iron into 15 is one of the all-time great golf shots, period, end of discussion, anywhere. Not just McIlroy, not just at Augusta National, period. The birdie on 17. I mean, I could go on and on about all of the most incredible shots that he could possibly make, and he made them. Yet, I do think of the double bogey on 1. I think of the miracle par on 2. I think of how he still put it in the water on 13. I'm still disturbed by that. And the guy won the tournament. It's over. And I'm still losing sleep over the fact that he did it, that he bogeyed 18 in the fashion that he did. It was such a unique ride. It was such a roller coaster. O's pretending as if he was just totally behind this guy the whole time and he was always a believer. He wasn't. I'll admit, I wasn't. I don't believe McIlroy was. I don't think anyone could have been. Yet in the end, Rory McIlroy gets it done, and that's as memorable of a golf tournament as I'm ever going to have, anyone's going to ever see. And I would go as far to say sports, period. Like in terms of just sports moments in sports stories, the build-up, the scar tissue, the ups and downs on Sunday, him winning it in a playoff, it was just incredible theater. I wish I was a full believer and a true believer the whole time. I wasn't, but I did pick him, and he did win, so I'll take credit for that.
And we have video evidence of that, so nobody can ever take that away from you, Hazy B, not even O-Dog. Now, we must move on to the Montreal Canadiens. Unbelievably, they failed to clinch a playoff spot Monday night against Chicago. They blew the lead. They lose in the shootout. However, Ivan the Demigod Demidov was exactly as advertised. Absolutely incredible. Scores the goal, lights up the Bell Center. In fact, Bryan, one thing that's really impressed me so much about Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton is their drafting record. A lot of their prospects are turning into high-end players, but it's Demidov that seems like he could truly be the next superstar for the Habs. Is that the way you're seeing it, Bryan Hayes, that this guy is the guy that Habs fans have been dreaming about probably since the Guy Lafleur days?
Absolutely. I mean, as for first impressions, you couldn't have a better one than what Demidov had tonight, and the way Montreal Canadiens fans have reacted to him ever since it was announced that he was coming over here, that he was leaving the KHL and he was coming to Montreal and he was going to be playing for the Habs in the regular season and hopefully into the playoffs. And I still believe that will happen. I think them securing a big point on Monday night, albeit they were up 2-0 against the worst team in the league, or one of the worst teams in the league. They're not making it easy on themselves or their fans. I think they're going to get there. But this is what Montreal Canadiens fans have been absolutely dying for years and been waiting for years, and what they wanted to see out of Gorton and Hughes and the previous executives prior to them being here in Montreal or in Montreal because they have been starving for superstars, because that's what it was. You and I, we're Canadians, Jay. We remember it. Maurice Richard, that's as big as it got. You mentioned Guy Lafleur. That's what they had. Jean Beliveau, Howie Morenz back in the day. Superstars, larger-than-life figures that were Montreal Canadiens. And I think if you're a Habs fan and if you've been one for the last few years, you've been very, very jealous of what else is happening in the country, because this is the era of superstars playing in Canada. McDavid and Draisaitl in Edmonton, Matthews and Marner in Toronto, Quinn Hughes and Pettersson in Vancouver. You got the best goalie in the world in Winnipeg and Hellebuck. You have a unicorn in Brady Tkachuk in Ottawa. It's just an unbelievable era. And the last few years, Habs fans have been on the outside looking in, albeit with very good players. In Suzuki, in Caulfield. You were waiting for Slavkovsky. And I'd go back to September, and I do radio in Montreal every week with Campbell versus Gallo on TSN 690, and they kept telling me, we're dying for a superstar. And we were talking about Patrick Laine in September. That was the guy.
Yep.
That was who Montreal Canadian fans were waiting for, right? It was maybe Laine can find something. Maybe he comes alive at the Bell Center and in Montreal, and he finds this passion for the game, and he takes off, and he supplies them with superstardom and gets people out of their seats at the Bell Center. And when he got injured in the preseason, people were freaking out. And then it was Lane Hudson that showed up and arrived, and he did what he's done this year. He's going to win the Calder. He is a burgeoning superstar. And then the cherry on top is Demidov and all the hype that's come with him. The fact that he dropped to 5, because it feels like that now. I mean, it's early, and he's still got to keep proving himself. But he dropped to 5 in the draft, and he shows up right when they need him to get over the top, and he scores a beauty tonight, and he sets up the first one. And the idea that, again, I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they'll get in, and it's going to be Ovechkin, Demidov in the first round. I mean, I'm pulling for it. I think clearly Habs fans are pulling for it, but it is long overdue, because I think people in Montreal, they're clearly deserving of it. It's one of the great hockey markets in the world. They're the most passionate fans in the world. The way they come alive at the Bell Center, they have been absolutely craving superstardom. Lane Hudson started it this year. Ivan Demidov really popped it off on Monday night at the Bell Center. I can't wait to see what this kid becomes, but I think Hab fans, they're puffing their chest out. You got McDavid, you got Draisaitl, you got Hughes, you got Matthews. Maybe we got Demidov, we got Hudson, and let's see how this plays out.
They can't keep those number 93 jerseys in the stores. You mentioned Connor Hellebuck. He and the Jets clinched the President's Trophy on Sunday night. They back into it. Canada now has 4 teams in the postseason, Habs and Flames yet to be determined. But do you believe, Bryan Hayes, that the Winnipeg Jets are Canada's best bet to finally end this lengthy Stanley Cup drought?
I think they're the Canada's best bet to get through the first round. And that's a bit of a cop-out. But my concern with Winnipeg long-term is who they're going to run into. If they get through that first round, they're going to play Dallas or Colorado. If they get through those teams or whoever they end up playing, they're likely facing Vegas in the conference final, maybe LA, maybe Edmonton. I think it's a really tough route out of the West, man. I think the powerhouses are in the West. So I don't think I can sit here and say, in fact, I know I can't sit here and say, I believe Winnipeg gives Canada the best chance to win because, again, they have to prove themselves. They've had a phenomenal season. They start 15-1. They win the President's Trophy. It's just been a magical year. And everything they've gotten, they've earned. They've done an incredible job from top to bottom. Scott Arniel's been unbelievable behind the bench. Hellebuck's going to win a Vezina again, back-to-back years, his third of his career. And, again, I love them in the first round. I don't care who they end up playing. St. Louis, Minnesota, Calgary, it doesn't matter. I saw you and Frankie Corrado on Sunday. I don't think it matters. I think Winnipeg's getting through the first round. It's after that where it really starts to become a grind. That's when it really becomes troublesome. And I think the teams in the East, probably Toronto at the forefront of this. Can't believe I'm saying that because everything I said about Winnipeg applies to Toronto. They have to prove who they are. But the Leafs are peaking right now, and I think the East is way more wide open. And that's really about what it comes down to, what the science and the formula is. When you start to project who you think can win 16 games in the spring, who's got the easiest pathway, Winnipeg's got a very difficult one after the first round. So I like them through the first round. I think it's a coin flip beyond that. I wouldn't be shocked at all if they made it to a Cup final. But I'd look at the teams in the East as having a slightly better chance because I think the competition in the East is certainly more watered down.
And, Bryan, this is my last chance to talk to you before the playoffs begin. So does your Stanley Cup pick come from the East?
It doesn't, because I've learned a lesson on your show, Jay. prior to the NFL season, I picked the Baltimore Ravens to win the Super Bowl. And then we got to the playoffs and I flip-flopped and I went to the Bills. Now, the Ravens didn't end up winning, so it didn't truly burn me. But I learned a lesson that I should stick with whoever I was picking to start the year. And I picked the Dallas Stars on your show back in September, early October. I just liked the way that they were built. I obviously love the fact that they've acquired Rantanen, something I never would have seen happen in September. Yes. But I like their goalie. I like their defense. I like the way they're built. I like their depth. I really like their head coach in Peter DeBoer. He's got Paul Maurice vibes going in the West. Again, really difficult trek for them. They're going to face Colorado, then Winnipeg. It's not going to be easy. So it's more about stubbornness and me trying to stay consistent. I picked Dallas in September.
Yep.
I'm going to stick with Dallas today. You might have to ask me to pick a different Cup winner in 2 weeks because there's a very good chance they're out in the first round. But I'm sticking with where I was 6 months ago. I'm going with the Dallas Stars.
So remember this, Jeff O'Neill, if you're watching, and I know you are, it's on video. And you can never take that away from my guy, AZB.
Hot Takes is presented by Harvey's. Customize your burger and get it delivered from our app to your door. Harvey's, it's a beautiful thing.